Hello dear students, let's study today a new poem, and the poem name is The Stolen Boat. This poem is written by William Wordsworth. I request you to read the introduction of the poet yourself. Let's have a look on the pre-reading activity. Imagine a child has been caught stealing a pen. What will you do? If you were the child, you were the headmaster of the school. So this question has been asked to you children. If you imagine, if you see somebody stealing a pen, what will you do? Actually, this is a kind of act, children. Immoral act, we can say. So if you see such kind of child stealing a pen or stealing something, will you advise the child or not? Yes, of course, we will advise. We will say it is the wrong thing. And what the child will be having in his mind, we will check it. Why he has stolen. We will try to understand the problem of that child. Isn't it? So there is a link with this activity, children. And what William Wordsworth is going to convey a message through this poem. Let's see. This poem, A Stolen Boat, is actually a confession. Here William Wordsworth is going to explain an incident which occurred in his childhood, children. During his childhood, when he was playing, he has stolen something. And in a form of confession, he is explaining this now. What happened and what is that incident and what confession he is going to do. Let's see, children. One summer evening, led by her, I found a little boat tied to a willow tree. So it was the summer evening. One summer evening, the poet says here, led by her, I found, means here there was a little boat. Here he went on watching the boat. The boat was tied up to a willow tree. He found it. I found means here it is referred to William Wordsworth. The poet found it. And that boat was tied up to a tree, willow tree, children. A tree that grows near water with thin flexible branches. So a kind of attraction was there, means here the poet got attracted by that boat. So he went near to that boat. And what happens next? Let's see, children. Within a rocky cave, its usual home. So where it was near to the river, there was a willow tree, and in a rocky cave, there was a rocky cave. The boat was tied up. It was tied up to a tree, and it was kept near to the cave, children. Straight I unloosed her chain, and stepping in, pushed from the shore. It was an act of stealth. See, the poet himself, he went to the boat. He just looked around. He found that he was alone, standing near to the boat. Slowly he went near to it, and he unloosed the chain which was tied up to the willow tree. Then he took the boat, he dragged it, and later he stepped into it. And he started to push it slowly. He knew, children, it was the act of stealth. Stealth, it is mentioned here. It was an act of stealth. And he was fully aware that he is stealing the boat. And actually he wanted to row that boat into the lake. And he wanted to enjoy. So in a mood of enjoyment, he forgot everything. Everything means he forgot that what kind of thing, immoral act he is doing. And he just took the boat and he started to row into the lake. A troubled pleasure, nor without the voice of mountain echoes, did my boat move on. So there was a troubled pleasure, as I said you. He knew that it was an act of stealth. And here he want to have happiness. He want to have enjoyment, children. So in that excitement of enjoyment, he forgot that it is an act of stealth. So there was no voice. The voice, the mountains echoes, only means there was silence everywhere. Only the mountains were visible, the nature was visible. It was a creepy silence, children. And slowly the boat started to move on the lake. Leaving behind her still on either side small circles glittering idly in the moon. So slowly, how the poet started to row the boat, he started to leave the place, the willow tree place behind. So there were circles, children. When the poet was rowing the boat, the circles were formed. And in those circles, in those ripples, we can say, in those ripples, the moonlight was visible. In those small circles, the poet is telling here. Until they melted all into one track of sparkling light. But now, like one who rose, proud of his skill to reach a chosen point with an unswerving line, I fixed my view. See, there was a kind of madness the poet was having in his mind. He just want to have enjoyment alone, and he want to row into that boat. He was looking into the ripples. He was looking how the ripples are formed, how the moonlight is visible. There were rows after rows. The ripples were forming and the sparkling light was visible, children. But here he was very proud that how nicely he was rowing the boat. He just wanted to reach the chosen point, means the poet wanted to reach at the another side of the lake where the mountains are visible, the high mountains are visible. And he had fixed his view, his sight, his point on those mountains. Let's see what happens. Upon the summit of a craggy ridge, the horizon's utmost boundary, far above, was nothing but the stars and the grey sky. So soon he reached the another side of the lake. Little bit a kind of hesitation was there. He was alone and he wanted to see the scenery of another side of that lake. And soon he reached, children. He went on rowing. He was alone in the boat. And when he saw the craggy ridge means this summit of a craggy ridge. It's a Stiborough crag in England, children. Means the highest mountains, the top of the mountains were visible from at a far distance, and he want to view those points, those edges from near, children. He want to stand near to those mountains and he wanted to see those tops. So it was visible now. The horizon's boundaries, the boundaries were visible. The boundaries of those mountains just like a line, drawn line. And there was a grey sky. The stars were visible. Okay, was nothing but the stars and the grey sky. She was an elfin pinnace lustily. See. Here William Wordsworth again he explains about the boat now. Till now what he explained about the scenery. Now it was about to turn, means it was about to get evening, it was about to get dark. So there was a grey sky and he was sitting in the boat alone. So he says she was means it is referred to boat, children. She was an elfin pinnace. She was looking like a fairy. and fairy-like boat, children. Lustily means passionately, with great happiness. I dipped my oars into the silent lake, and as I rose upon the stroke, my boat went heaving through the water like a swan. So he enjoyed the scenery. Then later he just had a glance around him. There was a creepy silence. Then later he dipped his rose, children. Oars means rows, the sticks which we use to row the boat, into the silent lake. And as I rose upon the stroke, my boat went heaving through the water like a swan. So he started to return to the same point, children, where the willow tree was there. So he dipped his rose and he started to row it. And when he started to row the boat, it went like a swan. He is telling here. It is described. When from behind that craggy steep, till then the horizon's bound, a huge peak, black and huge, as if with voluntary power instinct. See, when the poet started to row back to the same place, children, he found like the mountains, the craggy steep, the steep of those mountains, the tall mountains and the huge peaks, as if all those huge peaks were staring on him. The poet felt like that. This is a kind of guiltiness, children, a kind of regret he was having in his mind. He was very well aware that what kind of act he is doing. It was a kind of immoral act. He has stolen the boat. And what is the title? It is a stolen boat. So he felt like the nature has witnessed his act and the nature is staring at him. So he explains here, when from behind that craggy steep, till then the horizon's bound, a huge peak, black and huge, as if with voluntary power instinct, as if he found like those mountains have got supernatural power and those mountains have witnessed his act and they are staring at him. It makes him to feel guilty, children. Upreared his head, I struck and struck again, and growing still in stature, the grim shape towered up between me and the stars and the still. See, when the rows where he started to row the sticks in the lake, he started to row the boat, the poet, he felt like the mountains are becoming bigger and bigger. And the mountains, he felt like the mountains are about to catch him. So he wanted to escape from that place. So he went on strucking, he went on rowing the boat very fast, children. As he was rowing the boat very fast, he just had a glance behind and he found like those shapes are taking huge shapes. Means the mountains are taking huge shapes as if they were about to catch him, children. And he felt like only little bit it was remaining to reach the sky. That kind of shapes those mountains have taken. Only nothing, children. Here it's a kind of confession. The small child, even it was knowing that it's a kind of immoral action, but still for his pleasure, for its happiness, it stolen the boat and it went on rowing into the lake. Then when he found the nature has witnessed his act, he felt guilty. So he explains here. So it seemed with purpose of its own and measured motion like a living thing. See, the non-living things, the mountains, were appearing like living things now. Strode after me with trembling oars, I turned, and through the silent water stole my way. He felt like the mountains are following him, children. And here the poet wanted to reach the and through the silent water stole my way back to the covert of the willow tree. See, he wanted to escape from that place. So when he looked behind, he had a glance. He felt like those non-living things have been changed up into living things. And soon he wanted to reach to the willow tree. So he returned back to the willow tree. There in her mooring place, I left my bark. So soon he took the chain of that boat and he tied up in the same place. He tied up the boat children. And through the meadows homeward went in grave and serious mood, but after I had seen. So immediately he left that place and fast, he was walking fast and he wanted to reach to his home. And now he was in a serious mood. That spectacle for many days my brain worked with a dim and undetermined sense of unknown modes of being, or over my thoughts there hung a darkness, call it solitude. See, here when even he left that place, that remained in his mind, children. That made an impact. Why? Because he took an opportunity when nobody was there. If he had taken permission and if he had taken that boat, this would not have disturbed him. The act was, immoral act started to disturb his mind, children. So those thoughts went on disturbing him. Day and night, that spectacle remained in his mind. Spectacle means how the mountains grieve. He felt like that. He imagined it. Actually, the mountains didn't grieve taller children. Those were non-living things. But the guiltiness what he has in his mind made him to think like that. There hung darkness, call it solitude. There was darkness, but the thoughts remain in his mind. Or blank desertion means the dark, the place kept on, when he started to recollect the place of that willow tree, it was making him to get scared, children. It was a kind of thought making him to feel guilty and making him to think that it was a kind of moral action. No familiar shapes remained, no pleasant images of trees, of sea or sky, no colors of green fields. Now he wanted to forget that incident. So there were no shapes, there were no images of the trees, of sea or sky, or no colors of the green fields in his mind. But huge mighty forms that do not live like living men moved slowly through the mind by day and were a trouble to my dreams. But what happened? The colors what he had seen in that place, that did not remain in his mind. Only those shapes what he had imagined, the shapes of the mountains, remained in his mind, children. And those shapes only started to trouble him in his dream. Understood? There is nothing, children. A kind of confession done by William Wordsworth. How the incident makes us to get troubled. The incident, if we have done anything wrong, that keeps on disturbing us. So always we should try our level best to do good deeds, not to involve ourselves into bad deeds. Okay? See you in the next session with another topic. Till then, take care of yourself and read this poem and mark the difficult words and write the meanings of those difficult words. Okay? Meet you in the next session. Thank you.